Hi, everyone. This is Tina Fox, CEO and creator of TERN Mentoring. Today, we have our most requested Zoomcast, and that is that you all want to know what it's like to be a mentor and what it's like to be a mentee. And I happen to have an outstanding pairing from a couple years past. Both Tommy Chambers and Colby Schneider were paired at JMU. Tommy is a JMU alum. Colby is now a JMU alum, but at the time he was a student. And they got magically matched through our algorithm, and they ended up working together for a semester, which is typically our finite time frame. However, for these two, it went beyond that. And I thought I would choose them today because I wanted you all to hear from the individuals who participated in this early and hear about their experience. So I'm going to start with you, Tommy, if that's all right. And we have a lot of mentors who they are giving of their time, or they might be interested in doing something like this. They want to serve their younger self, so to speak, in a capacity of mentorship. And we at TERN like to say, live your legacy through mentorship. And you've done that several times. So what does being a mentor mean to you?
Well, Tina, first, thanks for having us on. And when I hear, this great pairing, I think of peanut butter and jelly, and Colby, you're so much more than either peanut butter or jelly. But that when I think of good pairings, that's what I think about. Also, Tina, with TERN mentoring, I'd love to tell you more about my experience. But first of all, thank you for what you are providing to other people. I mean, this provides win, 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 this chain of wins. And I love the word legacy for you in this, because the legacy of winning and giving, and it's selfless in that you're creating more for others through your business and your program at TERN. So thank you for what you're doing. And thank you for allowing me an early opportunity to become a mentor in your system at TERN. So it's been a great start.
It wasn't supposed to be a cry fest, so thank you for that, Tom. That's very kind. Very kind.
So the question was, what does being a mentor mean to me? I thought this was interesting, and especially in terms of having an interview with Colby today, because the term mentor, you can look up the definition, but it's also there's the term for mentor, right? And for mentor is an electrical engineering apparatus that basically helps to form and shape other things. And I thought it was kind of neat that Colby's coming from an engineering background, and we're talking about mentorship, and I never looked up for mentor and mentor as a derivative of each other, but to shape to other things. And my experience as a mentor with TERN has been the honor of having the opportunity to learn from the mentees, learn as a mentor, to learn as a mentor, not just to try to share experience or give advice, and to be part of shaping other people's perspectives while it's also shaping mine. It's been a fascinating part of the experience for me.
I love that about you, Tommy, because there are different ways to learn. There's learning up, learning on the same level as you, and then also learning from those who maybe don't have as much experience as you, but just seeing it from a different perspective. So I love your definition, and thank you for giving me something new to look up and to think about. So on that note, you and Colby were matched, but you all aren't of the same major. So you're not of the same industry. Tommy, can you tell us a little bit about your background and what you majored in? And then we're going to switch it over to Colby.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to be a JMU Duke, and I majored in marketing and economics, or minor in economics. So the intention was always to be in the business field, not industry specific. And for me, it's one of the things that actually created a fascinating pairing for me, was to have somebody that didn't think like me, that I could share perspective from my experience, not from my qualifications, and to learn from Colby, his perspective, coming from a different industry angle than my qualifications were as well. So it really made it a really interesting pairing and fascinating two-way learning experience.
Now you graduated with a marketing econ degree, but what are you doing today?
Now I have a conglomerate of real estate service businesses. We have brokerage and property management is our core business service. So innovating in the space, not just doing it the way it has been done, and finding ways to do it better still, constantly improving.
That's awesome. So Colby, you are an engineering major. You just graduated from JMU not that long ago. You get paired with the guy who was not an engineering major, and now he's running this conglomerate in the real estate industry, and he's an entrepreneur. So when you first got paired with him, what were your thoughts on being paired with somebody who was not an engineering major?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And first, I just wanted to say, second one, Tommy said, thank you so much for being a champion of this program. I oftentimes, when people ask me about it, I say it's single-handedly the most influential decision that I made was to become a mentee and take this chance and take this leap. And I'm very happy to have this opportunity today to kind of share my story, because if it wasn't for a very enthusiastic prior mentee, my sophomore year roommate, Homer Elias, I probably would not have hopped on this and took this chance and took this opportunity. So I'm hoping maybe I can spark some enthusiasm to some students who may be a little skeptical whether or not to make that change
I'm
or
gonna have to say,
take that leap.
Colby, I did not know Homer was your roommate. I'm just learning that right now. And you know what? Homer
Yes.
jumped on. He's a graduate now too, correct?
Yes, absolutely. He just got a new job out for a startup, actually, which is pretty cool. He got a new job out in Charleston, South Carolina. So
you want to know how this is a full circle moment? Homer ended up on one of our calls the other week to onboard as a mentor. So now that he's graduated, he's moving this full circle, and he's coming back and he's serving the students that are still coming behind him. I'm going to get you on that as soon as I can too. So that's going to be my ask later on.
Absolutely. That is awesome. I'm glad for him. That he is a master storyteller. So he's gonna do a great job. I already know that. That's awesome for him. I didn't know that.
Terrific. So here you are paired up with Tommy. You don't have, necessarily similar backgrounds, but what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, so I didn't necessarily know what I was going to do after college. I obviously wanted to go into the engineering realm, but I always had a kind of dire instinct to kind of work for myself. I've always liked leading projects. So that's what kind of attracted me to the mentorship program itself, to be paired with the entrepreneur. When I found out that Tommy was in real estate, I was a little bit taken back at first. I was like, well, I've never really thought about going into real estate. I didn't know everything. I didn't know what I could really learn of value that I was interested in. Boy, was I wrong. It was so much more than just learning about his side of the business. It actually is a very small fraction of that. Most of it was weekly meetings where we would challenge each other, we'd set goals, we'd self-reflect. And I think the biggest thing one of the most valuable things that I took out of it was, in the beginning of our mentorship, we did an Enneagram test. I was a 3-wing-2. That's the achiever with the main group is achiever, and the wing group is the caregiver. And one of the main weaknesses of that group is that they have a very significant fear of failure. They need to feel validated by others. And what I got out of this mentorship, one of the many things I got out of this mentorship, was to learn to validate myself, that I'm enough. I don't need somebody else's validation. I myself am inherently valuable, and I can go out and produce that. And that, my confidence in interviews, I'm telling you, since this mentorship, every time I've had to sell myself, whether it be an interview or a project I'm pitching, I have not lost. So
Wow.
just because we had different backgrounds, I was an engineer. I'm still in engineering. I work for an engineering firm at the moment. Just because we were from different backgrounds, different fields, the learning did not, what I took from that was so much more than just real estate property management.
That is amazing. So I'm feeling that, Colby, because I'm a 3 wing too. So we have that in common. And interestingly, I know Tommy to be an Enneagram of a 3 as well. So it looks like we've got a lot of commonalities here. So even though the differences were in the backgrounds of study, for you two, there were other commonalities. For instance, the fact that you both matched up in Enneagram being a 3. And I love the confidence build. I also love the fact that you all decided to do these reflections within each one of your conversations. I think that's what made you all a really magnanimous team. So those are just a great story. Thank you for sharing, Colby. So,
yeah, I would add to that. It takes two, right? Or in this real the dynamic of a mentor and mentee, it's it can't be all one-sided on either side, and it matters less as to the background or the qualifications or the field of study or the industry or whatever it might be. It matters a lot more that of the engagement between the two people. And was Colby willing to engage? Was I willing to engage? And was I willing to listen to what he was really, where he was really struggling, or what he was looking for value out of the mentorship, instead of me just deciding to bring advice that maybe would not have been as valuable to him because I wasn't listening to his, right? So it took two. We both had to engage and listen to one another in a way to make that dynamic and that relationship productive for both of us.
yeah, absolutely. So, it does take two, and the fact that you two are coming from different backgrounds, but willing to participate in this program. And Colby, you had a roommate that encouraged you to come into this program. What would you say to other students that are contemplating, well, I've got this collegiate to career transition? Would you give them any advice on how mentorship may or may not serve them? Any tips and things that you could share with them?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think if you're even the slightest bit interested in pursuing a mentorship, being a mentee, do it. Take that leap. Take that chance. My first thing is low stakes, but the potential is high reward. I mean, it's a class, you're in college. There's not millions of dollars on the line. The worst thing that could happen is that you just don't click and you go away. You still have a connection, and that's that. Secondly, you're going to learn things that I always say 10, 15, 20 years of experience. There's not a textbook in the world that can fit that information in. And if you have somebody who's willing to share that with you, by all means, go for it. Even if it's not through this specific TERN membership, if you have somebody who's willing to share that experience with you, go for it. Absolutely. And then another one. So during my time interviewing, right? Not only did I learn, this was quote unquote to my last interview from this job. They said, "You've been trained well." You've been trained well because I was just voicing all the things that they really wanted to hear, and it was because of what I've learned through this mentorship program. To name a couple, I was making clear asks. I was voicing agreements versus expectations. That was a big one. That was one of my favorite, and I even I'll tell that story in a little bit, but I have some friends who just moved together and they're having some issues. That roommate stuff. It's like, listen, guys, agreements versus expectations. It's the resolver of all conflict. But you having that experience, that mentorship experience, shows that you went out of your way to improve upon yourself, self-reflect, and try to learn something new that you weren't familiar with. And that just shows future employers, even if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, it just shows future employers that you're willing to take that risk, you're willing to learn, and you're willing to better yourself.
Colby, when you speak in your answer, you have this smile that there's a story behind that smile. I mean, you're giving us a nibble, but there's like, if we had all the time in the world, and I'm going to ask you, at some point in life, there is a smile behind that whole story of, oh man, like if you could have seen me in the interview and to feel what I felt going through that, and I was like, I got this. I love that smile. I love that smile about you.
And I will say, prior to this, I was not the best interviewer. I would get nervous. I would overthink, and there's always still some nervousness, always. But I felt, I don't know, it's crazy. The difference between before and after this experience with Tommy, and I'm just grateful to have had the experience.
Well, Tommy is a master, so I know you were taught by one of the best. So
Yes.
Tommy, I was at JMU the last couple of days. I was talking to a bunch of seniors, and I mentioned to them that, at their time of life, they're used to the 3 Ps. They're used to their parents, their peers, and their professors. And those are the groups in which they operate. And what we're trying to offer is we're trying to offer them a 4th P, this other person and or professional that has decided to volunteer their time and give of their heart and share their opinion based on the wisdom they've gained through their experience. So my question for you, Tommy, is, what if somebody is wondering whether or not they should give in mentorship and become a mentor? Because sometimes people are thinking, wow, that's a heavy lift. How long is this going to last? Do I need to be this person's best friend? What are we going to talk about? There's a lot of things that keep people from wanting to be a mentor or that 4th P. What would you say to them?
First, I thought you were going to call me a pirate as the 4th P.
You do have the sword. You do have the sword, which I know
Yeah,
people looking are going to say, what's that sword?
I'd say this, and Colby, I really like the way you said it, and this is the thing, is what Colby's expression has been. Every time he says something like that, or what his experience was, I felt it too. And I when I say I felt it, not just the gratitude, but also I experienced learning in what he learned. I grew when he grew. It changed my perspective as well, and it provided value to me as a professional. At the same time, it seemed to provide him value. It reinforced. It made me a better manager. It made me a better CEO. It made me a better father, to be able to learn how to interact and practice. I mean, Colby and I, we practice interacting. We practice like the interview, because I made him interview with me, even when he was like, am I in an interview right now, or am I not? And it was like strange, but I was like, no, like I'm going to keep asking the question until you feel confident about the answer. And then when it's authentic, that you've answered it the way you want to answer it. Right. But I just, to my team yesterday in a team meeting, I was like, hey, we need to talk about clear asks. Do we have any clear asks of one another? And last week I was having a conversation with my wife about expectations versus agreements on giving our kid a cell phone, and these whole type of thing. Instead of being like, oh, well, she was expecting that this was okay, and I was having a different expectation, we had to agree on it. And, but it reinforced things when I discovered them again with you. And, but for other mentors, it has purpose, and it gave me meaning in what I do. And, I'd say, I seek out the things that make me feel like I have more purpose or more meaning. And it's not similar to what Colby said about, hey, what's the worst that can happen versus the upside potential of engaging in this program. I mean, the worst that could happen is, hey, like, I spent a couple of sessions, spend some time trying this thing out. And the upside is you can expand your network. You can learn how to be a better parent, boss, spouse. You can learn how to be, you know, for me, one of the things I wrote in one of Colby's recommendation letters is, you know, I have new hope for the entire generation after Colby. I call him the Luke Skywalker of his generation because, you know, Luke Skywalker is the new hope. And I was like, man, like I did not have a really high opinion of the millennials I had interacted with before. And like I was trying to avoid hiring millennials before Colby. And after my engagement, I was like, wow, there's people out there like this. Like, I'm ready to re-embrace hiring this new generation now. I'm willing to look at this differently and engage differently based on what I know someone like him can do. So, I mean, it gave me more meaning. It gave me new engagement to better my business by hiring the next generation, learning how to engage with that. I mean, the upside potential is huge, and there is really not any downside potential besides a few hours of time. So, you know, the other thing I'd say is if you are a believer in that, you know, that meaning and purpose, and giving and teaching others in life, the mentorship program is that opportunity to pull that sword out of the stone. You know, it's there. If you want to take the next leap as a leader, then you need to practice mentorship in order to learn how to take the next step as a leader of your business. So for me, I mean, it was an opportunity to pull the sword out of the stone.
So if anybody doesn't know Tommy, I'm going to tell you right now, he is a clever guy. And I knew he was going to work that sword into the conversation. And there it was. So thank you for that, Tommy. Okay. I love what you said about the reinforcement for you in the discovery in your mentorship with Colby. So that was like the key that I'm pulling forward, because I have heard that from many mentors, is that sometimes as we move through experience, we get mired in the details, and having to re-engage with a different generation and getting out of all the details because they're not involved in the details of what it is that we're doing, and reset to more of a general discussion sort of helps clear the air and gets back to what matters. And I've certainly seen that with you all. So the ripple effect of how this has affected you thank you for sharing that, because that was another thing I wanted to touch on. You know, with mentorship, people think, oh, this goes on in perpetuity. Like, how do you get out of this thing, right? So you all knew that when you were coming into this program, what did you think about, I'll start with Colby on this. What did you think about the way the program was set up as far as the number of sessions and the amount of time that you were supposed to connect in a semester? How did that work for you? Because you're a student, you're busy, you got extracurricular activities, you want to go hang out with friends. How is that as far as the amount of time and the expectations and the agreement that we had, right, you becoming a mentee?
Absolutely. To kind of give some background as to how busy I was, you know, I not only was I doing this mentorship program, it wasn't that much of a time commitment. It was a few hours a week. However, we did agree upon sometimes certain weeks that we'd spend a little extra time either writing down goals or just doing small little personal growth challenges like that. And but I was an engineering ambassador, on the executive board, which is like, first off, that was another great decision I made, but we won't get into that because that's not for this. But that's one of the most engaged student organizations in the engineering department here at James Madison University. I was in 16 credit hours, which is a lot. And I had several in my engineering program. It's a project-based curriculum. So I had several projects going on during that time, as well as a girlfriend who I've been with since sophomore year of high school. And so, and friends, like you said. And so all those things, that's a lot of things to juggle. But the time commitment was not that bad. And one of the things that we talked about was being intentional with your time. And that alone kind of helped me prioritize what to focus on, and being able to say no to other things when they come around. That's another characteristic of a three. They have a hard time saying no to things. And I actually did turn down a couple things that I was trying to do in order to kind of balance my time load. And the time load wasn't getting overwhelming because of this mentorship program. It was getting overwhelming because I kept saying yes to everything. But definitely a good use and a valuable use of the time.
So I appreciate you mentioning what your workload looked like. I remember you being a very engaged student, and I think that people that are contemplating coming into mentorship probably are very engaged students, and it's all a function of time. One of the things we wanted to make sure of, and the way that we have it set now, is about 30 minutes of agreed upon time per session, knowing that perhaps, especially with pairs that match really well, they may exceed that. So you guys certainly did that, especially because you're agreeing upon, the more you got to know each other, the more that you guys got involved with each other. So there are folks that I've also heard that are gung-ho to be mentees, gung-ho to be mentors. And they're saying, well, your program is only for this amount of time. And I said, yeah, and that's done on purpose, but we don't dictate what happens thereafter. So you two are a perfect example of the thereafter. And that's why I wanted to bring you on here, because you have a really healthy mentorship relationship that not only extended beyond the program while you, Colby, were still at JMU, but even outside during the summers, et cetera. So Tommy, I guess, can you talk to, as a mentor, what were you seeing in mentoring Colby that made you decide this is someone I want to stay connected with?
Yeah, well, I mean, lots of things. However, Colby, what I started to see through both, just our discussions with him, doing our goals together, but also listening to what those other stresses were in his life and how he just pursues excellence in everything he does, was, this guy's got a Midas touch. Like, everything he touches turns to gold. And one of the greatest compliments I had ever received in my life was, Tommy, you were the catalyst for success at this one particular thing. And it was one of the greatest team accomplishments I had been a part of in my life. And to be called the catalyst for that success was very meaningful for me. And still to this day is one of the best compliments I've ever received. And I started to see Colby through the mentorship experience as, wow, like, this guy's a catalyst. Like, he is a catalyst for success. Everything he does, he pursues it to excellence, and he turns it into gold. And, I had this moment where he was describing, oh, I'm overloaded in my schedule. I'm really stressing out. I think your car was breaking down, Colby. He was working 10 hours a week at Food Lion for minimum wage, basically, to help pay some of his college bills while he was doing extra curriculum stuff for school and engineering and the ambassador program. And, he was like, I don't know what to say no to. I don't know, like I don't see where I can give something up and create a win. Because he valued his relationship with his girlfriend. He valued the value of the education he was committed to, the projects he was not willing to take a B on. He was going to pursue to get an A+ in everything he was doing. And I was like, wow, this kid's a catalyst. And yet something's got to give. And he was too stressed to see it. And I said, look, this was not the plan at the beginning of the mentorship. However, Colby, I'd like you to interview with me right now. And the interview opportunity is, you'll work as a virtual intern for me for 5 hours a week. So you cut 5 hours out of working, instead of spending 10 hours with Food Lion, you just spend 5 hours with me, and I'll pay you double what Food Lion's paying you. So you're not giving up any income, but you create more time in your life. And we worked through that interview process because there were certain things I wanted to hear from him, and I wanted to make sure it was something that he wanted, not just something that I wanted, because I saw the opportunity for him to create a catalyst for my success. And, true to form, when he said, yes, I'm in, he's still the best intern I've had since I started my own company. And what he brought and the research he did and the 100% he gave towards it. And, I really believe we created a win-win. Like, Colby didn't have to sacrifice any income and created an extra 5+ hours in his week to create more room for the things that he wasn't willing to give up.
That's awesome. That is absolutely. So you guys ended up in this internship relationship, and then I get a call from you, Tommy, that says, hey, I'm doing something with my company out in Bend, Oregon. I just bought this company, and I'm thinking about partnering with Colby. Can you describe that? Because that ended up being this next level ripple effect that I was just so amazed by, because you extended this beyond one student. You ended up tapping into almost, what, 40 students? It was just an amazing situation. So maybe Colby, you can describe what that was like, since you got the call from Tommy. So how did that go?
Yeah, so this was one of the cooler things that I got to do during my college time. Tommy had this vision, still has this vision of this kind of luxury living space called Nobility. The idea is that it's going to be a biomimicry residential facility that mimics a tree or a forest in a way that is also sustainable, and a place where people really want to live in all aspects of life, recreational uses. And he brought this vision, and that was kind of the basis, the start of our internship. He wanted me to look into it, so I got to do all sorts of cool things. I made this huge model of this Nobility village, and I got to explore all different things, all different types of renewable energy, energy storage, what water, how to get sustainable water infrastructure, and all sorts of things. And it was, so at the time, I had no idea I'd be doing what I do now, which is I'm a land development engineer. So I'm a lot better equipped now, Tommy, if we want to go a second round. Um, but I had no idea that this would that would lead to like kind of what I'm really doing in my career now. But so after that internship ended, I that was during the school year, kind of took the summer off. Actually, I mean, that was the end of our agreement. At the end of the school year, I went back home. I delivered a product to him that kind of detailed the ideas that I had for Nobility Village. And that was kind of that. And then at the start of my senior year, I get a phone call from Tommy saying, hey, Colby, what do you think about doing a Nobility design challenge? Not just through the engineering department, but for the school. And he pitched it to me. I said, let's do it. I've done some design challenges with like little kids for like an hour before, through engineering ambassadors, but I've never done anything like this. And it was quite the challenge, but it was so fruitful. We ended up getting, I believe it was over 50 students. We had 10 teams. We had some other majors. They were primarily engineering majors. And getting about 50 students, that's like 10% of the engineering program. It's not a very big engineering program. So I was very happy that we were able to get that large of a percentage of the entire engineering program throughout all 4 years to engage. And we were able to set up a design challenge where they went in and there was different design parameters, and they got to pick what challenge they wanted to focus on. They made an engineering solution, and then they got to present it again in front of a bunch of real entrepreneurs, engineers, people in that field. And it was so meaningful for me to be able to provide that to my peers, that opportunity. That, I mean, that could have been the difference. That experience could have been the difference of them getting that summer internship that they were wanting. Well, hey, look, this is what I did. I presented this in front of these stakeholders. I placed first. Oh man, I'm forgetting the one kid who went out there. His teammates ended up dropping off, and he ended up being a team of one. We allowed it. And he went out there and he absolutely killed it. It was like, I was like, wow, this is the coolest moment. Just went up there by himself. He was a freshman, I believe. He was either a freshman or a sophomore. I know he was a freshman. He's a freshman and he goes up there by himself in front of these stakeholders and has this polished presentation. It was like, wow, man, that just being able to provide that opportunity, it was just astounding.
Yeah,
Can't say anything else.
And yet it
I
doesn't happen without Colby's engagement from on the inside of JMU, right? Like this is the thing. It's, you know, yeah, I had a vision, an idea, and then Colby and I worked on it together, and we met our agreement. And then, you know, it was like, okay, well, here's another idea for the next semester. Could we do something like this? And when he decided to be engaged, I knew it was going to be a success just because he was the catalyst involved. So, you know, it was no shortage of work on your part, Colby, but it was something that really was a special program that I'd really like to do again. I really need to find a mentee that's willing to engage at the next level.
Well, and you guys did a masterful job in including the professors, because I remember the professors were amazing in the engineering department to look at their syllabus and figure out a way in which to take the classroom experience, marry it with this this opportunity. And what I thought was even more crazy was that there was cash on the line that Tommy decided to give. And so these students walked away with an opportunity to earn a little bit of money while they were doing all of this hard work in a class that they needed to take anyways. And they had this real life practice to go along with it. I just love you were talking to Tommy about all the wins. I loved all the wins you all created well after the fact in your relationship.
Yeah. And it all starts with, you know, the seed of mentorship, right? And what can grow from there. And you know, when I say mentorship, it's the dynamic or the relationship between the mentor and the mentee that can really, you know, produce a lot of fruit. It can really grow into something really special. It can grow into an obligatory.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. Well, I want to wrap today. We always do a mentorship moment because you can learn just as much in just a few moments of time as you can in 6 sessions or over a semester. So having gone through this and knowing what mentorship can do for you, I wanted each one of you to maybe share a mentorship moment to pass on to the viewers of this. So I'm going to start with Tommy. What's your mentorship moment?
For me, it really was that moment when I said to Colby, hey, like, I would love to have someone with your dedication to excellence, helping me to explore and grow this vision and do some research and hire you as an intern. And that moment where he realized he was overfilled and stuffed with his life with all these different things that he was saying yes to, and him realizing that saying yes to this one meant actually adding time to his life and adding value to his life instead of saying yes to something that takes away. So for me, it was that moment because it just springboarded us to the next step of our relationship, and it continued to grow and build more legacy from there.
That is awesome. And Colby, do you have a mentorship moment that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I do. Now I could share a lot more of Tommy's, but I think I'll take this time to kind of shout out another mentor that's been in my life. My best friend's dad, Walter Campbell. So I mean, mentorship is a lot about growth, right? But there's something about being a child. There's certain pieces of that you don't want to lose. That kind of excitement, that wonder, that pace for adventure. You know, everything's new, everything's exciting, everything is engaging. And my friend's dad, Walter Kim, we call him Big Walt. Big Walt. He taught me from a young age, find something that makes you feel like a kid and make time for it. He's a very busy man. He's president of a nationwide property or community management group. But just last night, I was out there surfing with him. That's his thing that makes him feel like a kid. And when he's out there, he's probably in his mid to late 50s. And when he's out there he still surfs with his childhood friends. When he's out there, you'd think it's just like a bunch of 10-year-olds out there just having fun, relaxing, and just kind of having a good time, having an adventure, feeling that release, getting excited about the natural world. And so that's my one piece of mentorship advice that I've gotten from him is find something that makes you feel like a kid and make time to do it.
Well, say thank you to Big Walt for us. And to my two catalysts at TERN Mentoring, both Tommy Chambers and Colby Schneider. It's always a pleasure to chit chat with you all. I hope those that are listening are inspired by your story, inspired by your friendship, your relationship, the mentorship that the two of you provide to each other. And if anybody's interested in TERN Mentoring, you can always reach us at info@ternmentoring.com. We're also online at ternmentoring.com. We will enter you into one of our cohorts, either as a mentee or a mentor. We're also on Instagram. You can check us out at Fox Paradigm, which is my umbrella company. So we'll be bringing up a TERN Mentoring one at some point. But I cannot say thank you enough to the two of you. I just think you're amazing human beings. Tommy, I know you are making waves in this world. And Colby, I know that as a catalyst moving forward in the engineering world, I can't wait to see what it is that you're going to be doing in the years to come. We hope that we get to stay in touch. And my ask for you, Colby, is I do want you in as a mentor, because it looks like between Big Walt and Tommy, you could be passing on some good knowledge to yourself.
Right.
All right. Well,
Great to see you, Colby. Thank you, Tina.
Absolutely.
All right, you guys, you have a
Good to see
great rest of your day, and we'll chat soon.
All right. Thank you.